Hey there, thanks for being here on this episode 63, I believe, 63 of the Positioning to Profit podcast. And today I'm sharing something that I caught just by happenstance, a really great lesson on the importance of standing out, differentiation, and a really sound story that impacted me. It was just absolutely lovely. I'll have to tell you more about it and share with you so that you too can make sure that you're different. Very important. All right, here we go. Hey there, I'm Patty Dominguez. You're about to discover what it means to position your brand and your business to stand out. This show explores the stories of small business owners just like you who are bringing their message out to the world and impacting their tribe. So if you want to take your business to a category of one status, then hang with me because this podcast shares everything you need to know about how to be more prolific with your brand so that you can have more profits. All right, so good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Positioning to Profit podcast. And as I go through my days and I have my interactions with my clients, I'm so blessed and so fortunate, so very grateful every single day because I understand the power of sharing your message. And as people hear me say time and time again, your message matters. Now more than ever, if you think about it, in the midst of all of this chaos that we're going through as of the recording of this podcast, it's still important to get your message out. And arguably, now more than ever, even more so. So don't take your foot off the gas pedal, keep going, and keep moving forward because it is so important. And such a great lesson that I learned over the weekend. Just 2 nights ago, I happened to catch a Netflix episode. Now, I'm not necessarily a big TV watcher. Like, I might have things going on in the background, but I'm not like a binger where I'll sit in front of the TV and I'll watch hours and hours on end. So I was just kind of decompressing a little bit the other day and happened to plop down on the couch and was surfing on Netflix and watched this really interesting show. It's called Street Foods Asia because I'm more of a documentary type person. I happened to catch this episode where it focused on a chef from Bangkok, Thailand. Now, my family and I, we were in Bangkok, Thailand over, maybe 2.5 years ago now. And it was such a lovely experience. And it happened because my son, at the beginning of the year, he had said, or we had exchanged like, oh, where do you want to go? What would life look like this year? Or what are your goals? He's like, I want to go somewhere cool. And then I'm like, yeah, okay, so where? So we're thinking like here locally, like a whitewater rafting tour or something awesome in the Caribbean. And he's like, no, I want to go to Bangkok. I'm like, what? So he's like, why not? Let's just do it. I'm like, you know what? Why not? So we did. We took a beautiful trip with my family down to Bangkok, Thailand. And I found that the people there are just absolutely lovely. So it was a really positive experience for us. So anyway, I'm watching this episode on Netflix. It caught my attention specifically because it was highlighting this chef from Bangkok, Thailand. Now, when I say chef, you may have a preconceived notion that it's somebody in a swanky or popular restaurant, more on the urban scene. And what happened was they were featuring this woman because hence the title of the show being Street Foods Asia, where they paid a special homage to the street food cooks, right? People who are making food and making a living. And one of the women that they had featured, her name is Faye. I'm not sure. Excuse the pronunciation. But she is a street food vendor in Bangkok, Thailand. And it told her amazing story of growing up and really struggling very hard. Life was very hard for her. Her father he had substance abuse issues growing up, and she was very poor. And she had her siblings, and her mother was, really struggling to make ends meet. So she would sell her noodles and chicken literally on the street. These little pots that they have on a little coal fire that they do in like a garbage can, like a type of thing. And she said that life was really hard. And her story continued, and she was talking about how her mother had said to her, "Oh, you're not going to be able to cook." And she's like, I have to learn. And so it was through this particular experience where she was thrown into this line of fire, pun intended, where she was just like, I have to learn how to cook, but I want to make it different. Okay. I want to make it different. So what she did was really exceptional. Now, please understand, this is a woman from Thailand, pretty much uneducated, right? Not sophisticated by any means, very humble, just a beautiful soul. And they pan over to a scene of her cooking. She's in her almost mid-70s, and she's there cooking and just tearing it up with the wok and putting out these amazing, gorgeous culinary creations, masterpieces, absolutely astounding. I was blown away. So one of the things that she talked about is when she was starting out, all the other street people who were selling their food, they were selling noodles and chicken. And she's like, I wanted to be different. She's like, how was I going to stand out? And so she took a risk. She took a gamble, and she invested in high quality prawns. Okay, high quality prawns that she wanted to make with her noodles. And she was like literally testing the limits. And people were like, you can't do that. It's always chicken and noodles, because that was very cost effective, right? She's like, no, I want to make it special. Like, I want, in her own words, she didn't even understand how amazing of an opportunity she was creating. She was just going with her gut and really recognizing how she can elevate that experience. So she talked about tom yum soup, which is an amazing kind of sweet, tart, gorgeous soup broth with like vegetables and protein in it. It's absolutely delicious. And so she created her own version, right? She twisted a recipe that was tried and true that people came to know, and she would make her version of it. Anyway, she would push the envelope with these creations and was just being very exploratory about this whole concept that people started to take notice, and they started indulging in her beautiful creations. And she had constructed 100 different Thai food, just amazing plates of food, whatever it is that she puts out. So again, you have to catch this on Netflix. And my whole purpose in sharing this with you, she's such a great example. Can't even explain, of somebody who is zagging when everybody else is zigging. And this is something that I share with my clients as well. The importance of doing that is just because you say that you're a coach, that's not enough. How are you different? How are you differentiating? How are you taking risks and pushing the envelope in such a way that you're capturing the attention of people? And the beautiful thing about her story, this woman from Thailand, Jay Fai, is that she did it in spite of ridicule, in spite of criticism. She just went with her gut, and she knew that what she was creating was coming from the heart. And then they show her, and again, she's in her mid-70s, and she was saying how she's like, I love to work. She goes, sometimes I get tired, but I don't say I'm tired because I absolutely love what I do. So this is such a great example of somebody who has deep purpose, and she believed in what it is that she's doing in such a way, in such an absolute way, that she became well known, okay, in Bangkok as the street vendor with the amazing food. She actually was awarded a Michelin Star, which if you have exposure to the culinary world, that is a huge accolade to receive a star. And could you imagine that somebody so quote unquote uneducated as a street food vendor to get a Michelin star is absolutely one of the biggest zags that anybody can think of. So then they go into how there's pictures of people taking pictures with her. She had a line out the door. People would, make reservations to be in her presence and taste her delicious foods and her delicious creations. And again, I just really, it left a significant impact on me because I looked at that as such a great example of somebody who is willing to take a risk. And so now back to you. How are you taking a risk in your business? How are you differentiating? How are you getting people talking about what it is that you do in such a way? And she, without even knowing how masterful that move was in her taking a risk and putting those prawns and taking the traditional ways of doing things and creating her own zag with it, right? Creating that quote unquote, as Seth Godin says, purple cow. And she became known as Different. And in a pool of street vendors, she established her own category of one and stayed with it and was dedicated to it. And she kept going until she didn't, I mean, it's not like she was expecting to get a Michelin star. But what happened is it just opened up this like, this is me, this is how I do it. It's different. You're not going to see anything. And that's what got people talking. I just absolutely love it. So you have to watch it if you're interested in these types of beautiful stories. So I really encourage you to take inventory of how you are running your business, because if you're just playing it safe, coloring within the lines, I have to tell you that you're not necessarily going to stand out. And that's something I'm very passionate about, is creating your own category of one so that you can make the competition irrelevant. And as you can see in the way that she did it, this amazing woman, Jay Faye in Bangkok, Thailand, is that she made her competition irrelevant. And as a result, she has people waiting in line, making like reservations, taking pictures with Martha Stewart. Is just unbelievable. And she's such a great example of everything that I talk about, and she puts it into practice. And as a result, she's just amazing. So I just wanted to share that with you, and taking inventory of the way that you're putting yourself out there, pushing the envelope, drawing attention, highlighting the thing that makes you different, and going with your gut and taking risks and being okay with it, and being removed from the outcome when it doesn't work, right? Because sometimes things don't work. I know I've been there. And yeah, sometimes it leaves a mark and you're like, oh, that was a disaster. But just keep going and refining your message. It has been very much an exploration for me as well. I didn't have all the answers when I started out, but what I've found is that the more that I put myself out there in a way that's unique and different, and having a new conversation about something, the more people, the right people, your premium prospects, are going to stop and listen. They'll stop and listen because it's relevant to them. And that's something that if you're doing it right, you're doing your marketing right, you're creating those connections to connect the resonance so that you can earn their attention and trust, and ultimately build your beautiful raving fans, just like Jay Faye in Bangkok, Thailand. All right, I just wanted to share that because I was super inspired to see her amazing story. Again, you can check that documentary out on Netflix. It's called Street Foods Asia, and the episode is called Bangkok, Thailand. And that's Jay Faye, the owner of Ron Jay Faye in Bangkok, Thailand. You've inspired me, beautiful woman, and I hope it inspired you too. All right, so thanks for checking out this episode of the Positioning to Profit podcast. If you are interested, or when you are ready, definitely reach out. You can find out more information on my website at pattydominguez.com. My program is called Positioning to Profit, and that is all about establishing your own category of one status and making the competition irrelevant for yourself. So thanks again for checking this episode out. I appreciate you, and always remember, your message matters. All right, see you next time. Thank you so much for checking out the Positioning to Profit podcast. If you haven't already done so, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new episodes. And also, it would mean the world to me if you would take a quick moment to leave a rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast player. It really helps to get the word out about the podcast and, of course, the featured guests. And lastly, please make sure to connect with me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm on all of them. And use hashtag Positioning to Profit so that I can search you out and connect that way too. All right. Thanks so much. See you next time.